Number 33. The development of antibiotic-resistant bacteria is an example of... So this question talks about antibiotic-resistant bacteria. So what is antibiotic-resistant bacteria? So it's bacteria, or they are bacteria, that are immune, let's say, or rather say resistant to antibiotics, meaning that they don't really die from antibiotics. Usually, bacteria die when they're exposed to antibiotics. However, there are some bacteria that don't die from antibiotics because, simply put, when a patient, when a person is sick from bacterial infection, let's say, and he or she gets prescribed with antibiotics, but the person doesn't eat or doesn't consume or take the drug as he or she was prescribed or suggested. So what happens is that when the person is sick and takes antibiotics for maybe for a few days, it would just make him or her feel better because some of the bacteria will die, but not all. Okay, so let's say they're 300 bacteria. Okay, and when the person takes the antibiotics for the first time, it kills maybe 50, and then kills another 50 next day, and then suddenly stops because he or she feels better. So there'll be some bacteria left in the system, but not strong enough to cause much pain. So the person doesn't take the antibiotics, and then it's gonna provide some time for the bacteria to be replicated again, reproduce themselves by a process called binary fission. Basically means that the bacteria just divide themselves into two. Each bacterium will divide itself into two bacteria. So, and then eventually they're gonna increase their population and then make the person sick again, and he or she will take the antibiotics again to make him or her feel better. And then just if the process or if the situation just continues like this, one day it's gonna produce a mutated bacteria. I mean, it's not like it's going to happen. It will happen, but I'm saying it can happen. So there's possibilities. So there's always a possibility that this mutated bacterium or bacteria can born, and this bacterium or bacteria produces a substance that is very, very similar to antibiotics. And that's what it makes resistant to antibiotics, because if it makes a substance that's very close to the antibiotics, then it is immune to antibiotics. So it's going to replicate itself again by binary fission, and then the person will feel sick again and takes more antibiotics, but these guys will die. However, the ones that are immune to the antibiotics won't die. So they will just keep on dividing themselves again, and then eventually this person is in big trouble because the person will suffer from pain. caused by the toxins produced by these antibiotic-resistant bacteria. So this thing, this is actually becoming a very, very big problem. So this is actually a result of a process called natural selection, because these bacteria, they can overproduce. They can produce a lot of themselves by binary fission. So they can divide themselves into two, or they can double their numbers like once in 20 minutes or 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes. So they can quickly increase those numbers. So they can do overproduction. So when they do overproduction, there are some variations, like the normal bacteria, these guys. Or antibiotic resistant bacteria. So there are some variations, right? And then, if someone provides antibiotics, so giving them a struggle, some will adapt, like the ones that have a antibiotic resistance, and those will survive, and they will reproduce themselves. And pass their genes to the next generation. And then eventually what's going to happen is that there will be no normal bacteria left because of the antibiotics that kill them. But the antibiotic resistant bacteria will remain. So in that region, there'll be genes for these guys only. None of these will survive, right? So there's, like, initially there were genes for the normal bacteria and antibiotic resistant bacteria, but now, since these guys are all dead or gone, now the genes are only left for these ones. So there are changes in gene frequency in the region. And this process, this 7 steps, let's say, or 7 criteria, is called the natural selection. And that's how antibiotic-resistant bacteria are formed. Okay? The answer is D.